All right, welcome back. And in this video, allow me to talk about reciprocals and the sign of fraction first. Okay, so what is a reciprocal? All right, so take a look at a fraction. Let's take a real basic fraction like 1/2. All right, there's a real basic fraction. Okay, what is the reciprocal of 1/2? Well, when they're just talking about the reciprocal, they're just talking about the opposite of this fraction. So what's the opposite of 1/2? Well, if you remember past videos, we said that any number is a fraction. So, for example, 3 is a fraction. It's 3 divided by 1, okay? So, or you could say 3 is a fraction of, 6 divided by 2, okay? But this is a fraction as well. So, what would be the opposite fraction of 1/2? Well, that would be 2 divided by 1, okay? That's the opposite fraction, okay? Opposite fraction of 1/2. It's called the reciprocal. And when you also know that you have the reciprocal, because when you multiply the original fraction by the reciprocal, then you get 1, and I'll show you that right now. So for example, 1/2 times 2 over 1, well, that equals 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 equals 1. So you know you have the reciprocal when you multiply the original fraction by the reciprocal and you get 1, okay? All right, so let's take a look at the sign of a fraction. So say you have 2 here, and say you have a 3 here. And let's say this 3 is negative. All right, let's say you wanted to divide the 2 by the 3. All right, so if you did that, you'd have 2 divided by negative 3. Well, that makes this whole fraction a negative, so you could rewrite it like this and say negative 2/3. All right, but what if you had a negative 2 instead? Well, then you're doing the exact same thing. You're doing the 2 and you divide it by the 3. So now you have negative 2 divided by positive 3. Well, in the end, that still equals a negative 2/3. So whether or not the negative is in the numerator or the negative is in the denominator, the whole fraction is going to be a negative. All right? Okay. Let's talk about dividing fractions. So when you divide a fraction, what you're going to do is, I'll show you. It's easier to explain it. It's easier to show you than to just simply explain it. So say you had 1/2, and you're going to divide it by 1/3. Okay, well, in order to divide this, the way you do it is you flip this 1/3 over, and instead of dividing by 1/3, you're going to multiply by 3 over 1. Okay, you could see this in a calculator. You can verify this with a calculator, but this is basically what you're going to be doing. You're going to be taking 1/2, and instead of dividing it by 1/3, you're going to multiply it. Let's see here, by 3 over 1. And therefore, it's 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 1 is 2. And you can verify that with a calculator, and you'll see that it really is 3 over 2. 1/2 divided by 1/3, just doing it on my calculator, yep, sure enough, is 3 over 2, or 1 and 1/2, okay? Because 3 over 2 is the same as 1 and 1/2, or 1.5, okay? So that's how you divide fractions. You flip over you change the fraction, the one that you're dividing by, and you switch the numerator with the denominator, so you just reverse it, and then you multiply it. So let's look at one more example. So let's say you had 12 liters 12 liters of water, okay? And let's say that you wanted to take those 12 liters of water, you had this big old 12 big liters of water, and you wanted to pour those 12 liters of water into 2/3 liter bottles. So you have 2/3 liter bottles, okay? So basically in essence what you're doing is you're doing 12, and you're going to be minusing repeatedly 12 by 2/3 liters, okay? And if you did that, I mean, we could do that right there. So we're going to switch this 12. Let's just do that real quick. So 12 can be rewritten as, let's see here. We're going to want to rewrite that as 36 over 3. And the reason why is 36 divided by 3 equals 12. And we need to have the same denominator. So in order to minus a fraction, we have to have the same denominator. So now we have 36 thirds minus 2/3, and that equals 34 thirds, okay? And then we keep going, and we minus it again by 2/3, and that equals 32 thirds, and if we minus it again, we're going to get 30 thirds. All right, and if we keep doing that, in the end, we're going to get 18. Basically, we'll get 18. We'll be able to minus it 18 times. We'll be able to minus it by 2/3 18 times. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Then if we minus it again, that would be 4. And it would take us, we would have to divide, we would have to minus the 2/3 into this 12 liters 18 times in order to get 0, all right? And we can prove that by, instead of minusing it, because what is division? Well, in essence, it is repeated subtraction. All right, we're just repeating the subtraction: minus 2/3, minus 2/3, minus 2/3. So if we're instead of doing repeated subtraction, we could just divide it. So we have 12 divided by 2/3. Oops. Let's switch that to something else. 2/3. Instead of and in order to divide, we have to flip this over. So we have to change it. Put the 3 up there and the 2 down here. So this needs to go up here, and this needs to go down here, and then we multiply it. Okay. So now we have 12 times 3 over 2. And we do 12 times 3 over 2. We do 12 times 3, okay? And remember, the reason we're doing 12 times 3 is because 12 really is 12 over 1, okay? So as a fraction, and because it's 12 over 1, we're going to do 12 straight across, 12 times 3, and 1 times 2. Well, what's 12 times 3? Well, 12 times 3 is 36. And then 1 times 2, what is that? Well, that is going to equal 2. And 36 divided by 2 equals 18. So you could fill 18 2 third liter bottles with 12 liters of water. And yeah, that's just kind of real world. That's a real world example of dividing fractions. Okay.